Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Wednesday, December 3rd. You know it as National Signing Day, holiday in these parts. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. I'm joined by Garrick and Mark Porter. This podcast covers the national champions still basking 365 plus here. Good to be king. All right, we're coming at you a little early today, and we're going to give you a half hour because Garrick is hard at work. We are monitoring National Signing Day. We are not camped out in front of a fax machine because technology has allowed us to DocuSign. Garrick, bring us up to speed. Those DocuSigns or those commitments are coming in fast and furious. Let us know what's going on today in terms of occurrences Buckeye fans want to be apprised of from a timing perspective.
I know we've used the fax machine joke a lot, but I actually don't know when the last time schools actually used fax machines to take what used to be called national letters of intent. Now they're called financial aid agreements. But when was the last? Because I made that joke like 2 years ago, and someone was like, dude, come on. We haven't been using fax machines forever. But anyway, we can't start off the podcast with a digression, so we'll just get.
We always do.
I know. But right now, Ohio State has, I believe, 16 of their 28 commitments signed as of 8:42 a.m. Still waiting on 12, and possibly one of those will not sign. That we'll get into. Well, they may sign, but not with Ohio State. But again, we'll get into it all. Should be a relatively quiet day in terms of Ohio State recruiting, from what I understand. I'm expecting one flip out, which would be Caden Dixon-Wyatt. I expect him to ultimately pick USC. We'll see. And then we could have one flip in if things go according to plan, and that would be Ohio safety Caden Gebhardt. And he's supposed to announce at 11 a.m. So to bring everybody up to speed, the modern-day receivers that everybody's paying attention to, with Caden Dixon-Wyatt and Chris Henry Jr., of course, they will be announcing their decisions publicly at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's when Modern Day is publicly having their signing announcement. So we should get some clarity on both of those players one way or the other around 10:30 a.m. So we won't have to wait all day. If we're unfortunately for us who would love some content, we're not going to get a Ryan Day buckle ceremony because he and Mark Pantoni are supposed to speak to the media at around 12 o'clock today. But the fate of Chris Henry Jr. should be well known by then. And, of course, everyone wants to know, what do I think the fate of Chris Henry Jr. is going to be? I think that Oregon and USC have continued to push, and knock on wood, right now I am optimistic. I don't think it'll matter. I think he will sign with Ohio State. Can't say that with 100% certainty yet. You never know what can happen at the 11th hour. But right now I'm feeling good about where Ohio State sits with Chris Henry Jr. right now.
Mark, your thoughts on Chris Henry Jr.? You've only known about him since he was about 12.
Yeah, it feels like forever ago I was at West Claremont watching his freshman year, and he was basically committed to Ohio State as early in the process as I can remember. Maybe Bet Withrow or the year after. And as long as Brian Hartline's here, has been the chant. And I think that holds true. But he was injured junior year, so I was really interested to see what he looked like as a senior. Is he just hype, or is he the real deal? And he's the real deal. I mean, he's got a little twitch to that big frame. I've said it before. He reminds you of his dad. If you remember his dad, Chris Henry Sr., playing for the Bengals, he was about to be the next big thing. He was in that year where he was kind of blowing up. And if you were doing fantasy drafts the next year, guess who would have been the next, big pick or one of the top guys you wanted? It was probably going to be him. And he has, and it's not a phrase we use lightly, that Randy Moss frame where he was really thin and really light, and that's what gave him the twitch or the extra speed. And even with the knee injury, you could see senior year he had that back. He's going to be one of those guys that he's got to put on some weight because, obviously the expectations are going to be for him to come in and replace one of the greatest receivers that's ever come through here. And just name the list: Jackson Smith, Marvin Harrison, Jeremiah Smith. You got Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. You got some shoes to fill, kid. So I think he's going to live up to that, though. And when we did the Caden Dixon video and we did Chris Henry, we definitely like Chris Henry more. I'm not saying that because we might get the Chris Henry and the other, but Chris Henry was the original OG. Caden Dixon was like, wow, there's 2 receivers on one team that could possibly be at Ohio State. That seems a little unusual, but that may not come to fruition, says Garrett.
Well, Modern Day is a powerhouse, so they just rack up. They're an IMG academy in California, more or less. So they just rack up Division I prospects, and basically every position is filled with a Division I prospect, whether it's for Ohio State. But traditionally, just speaking on Modern Day, and I guess Caden Dixon Wyatt could fall into this category depending on what he decides here in a few hours. There's been a Modern Day curse at Ohio State to where Ohio State has been really close to landing some of Modern Day's premier prospects in the past, but for whatever reason, they just never pull the trigger and end up in Columbus. We'll have to make a decision as a group whether we count Chris Henry Jr. as breaking the Modern Day curse, because he would be the first player to ever play for the Buckeyes, or at least sign with the Buckeyes from Modern Day, but technically he didn't start there and he's from Ohio. So, but yes, traditionally to wrap things up on the Modern Day discussion, they've been a USC feeder forever. But yes, they're a very powerhouse school, one of the best high school producing talents in the country. And yeah, I mean, like everyone else, like you guys, I'm excited to see what those 2 wide receivers announce in a few hours here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Modern Day really is one of the elite programs. I think they're tight end. You got those 2 receivers. The tight ends, I think, going to Alabama or something like that. It's quite a setup, and one to watch for sure. I do think, and you guys can disagree with me if you want, we are now to the point, for me personally, where if you're a wide receiver and Ohio State really wants you and you don't come here, I almost think you're better off not being here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you agree with that?
100%, because the dog mentality to get on the field isn't just something you have. And I think that's what you're alluding to. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to get on the field here.
Yeah. And the mentality that it takes to maybe, hey, I got to wait for the wash to kind of wash out of here senior year for my role to kind of step into. Most kids aren't doing that, but the dogs that do, they're ended up in the first round is where they finish.
Does Ruben ever wash his face? Good Lord. Do I look dirty?
You got the no shave November. You got the beard going.
Yeah, that's because I'm getting fat again, and so I like to have a line here to fake the fat. When you get older, you'll start to do this.
The winter layer.
Well, if you put the cut here, sometimes in the pictures, people think your neckline is different as opposed to my gullet. So I try and put it out there. I just gave away my fashion look. So, darn it. Let's talk about potential flips. I think there is a decent belief that a certain family will not have to spend as much money on travel, if that even happens anymore. And they will not have to go to South Carolina. They can just come across town. Caden Gebhardt. I think there's a general belief he's going to flip. Garrick, if you can kind of rehash that or bring that up, and then Mark, your thoughts on him as a player.
Sure. Caden has kind of come out of left field at the last minute, but he also hasn't, because obviously he's had a long-standing relationship with Ohio State dating back past a year ago. But it's really only come into focus that Ohio State would have a chance to get him in the last week or so. And then all the momentum kind of started in the last couple of days in terms of predictions and whatnot throughout the recruiting industry. But yeah, I'm feeling very optimistic about Ohio State's chances of landing Caden Gebhardt. A 6'2", 200-pound safety out of Olentangy, the teammate of Ohio State now signee, we can say, CJ Santa. And Mark, you can feel free to agree with me or disagree with me, but I feel like he is a speedy linebacker playing safety. He's a hard hitter, kind of really excels in the box. This guy's a thumper from what I've seen on film, just really lays the wood. And really his high school stats reflect that. He's recorded over 100 tackles so far this year. And I think he's a guy that you just take and they're going to start him at safety. Maybe he ends up being a linebacker if he bulks up a little bit more, but he has the speed to thrive at safety. And he's kind of one of those guys where I don't know exactly that you pigeonhole him into a certain spot, but just take him and see where the chips fall from there. And Mark, I will give you the floor and let you gush about Caden to see if I am right or wrong.
Back when he was being offered the first time a couple of years ago. We covered him, and it was kind of, was it say CJ Santa or was it him who was better when you covered the game? You kind of watched both because they both had Ohio State offers, and you were kind of saying, which one's going to commit? And, obviously he committed to Clemson, and we just took him off the board and didn't really watch him. This year I went to see CJ Santa, and when I get the game sometimes, it's frantic on Friday nights. You're getting there, you're trying to grab a roster, you're trying to get pictures, the game's starting, I'm trying to get video. And when I started shooting pictures, I kept taking pictures of Gebhardt because I wasn't sure what number Santa was. And I'm like, as I watched him play, I'm like, oh, that's the safety Gebhardt. So the camera immediately gravitated to him, if that makes sense.
I will say this in your defense, Gebhardt changed numbers. He was 34 as a junior and 2 as a senior. So
yep.
How dare he? Go ahead.
And for a scout's eyes, I'm out there scanning bodies. I'm like, oh, look at this guy. Who's this? And you start taking pictures, and you're like, who in the heck is that kid? Like, why don't I remember him? And Dan, thank you for saying that. Makes me feel a little better. But it took me a while to pull focus and be like, oh my gosh, the kid's going to Clemson. No wonder I'm gravitating towards him play after play. So he is of the ilk. And you said it. The question back then was, is he in the box safety? Is he over the top safety? Is he have the size to move the linebacker? Can he play that spot? Let's not pigeonhole him with anything. I like not doing that to kids. Let's give him a chance to play safety, but he has tackling skills that you could put him down in the box and you'll be fine with him. He's definitely a different type of safety. So if you're trying to stock your cupboard like a wide receiver room, you got some tall guys, you got some short guys. For safeties, hey, we got some cover guys and we got some box guys. And with what I'm breaking down on film, Coach Patricia is using every ounce of talent. He is not afraid to put 5, 6, 7 DBs on the field, 3 defensive ends. I mean, he is an out-of-the-box guy that just looks at players as chess pieces. And while other people are playing checkers, he's out there playing chess.
I would really encourage everybody to watch the video that Ohio State produced from the game. If you didn't love Matt Patricia before this, I'm ready to invite the guy to Christmas, whatever holiday we celebrate. I was like welling up with tears watching the guy, get him ready to go out there. Like, the idea of Ohio State playing for each other and not for the hatred of Michigan, that was not a fly-by-night approach. That was deep in those dudes, and it was inspirational to see behind the scenes, especially when you know the result. All right, Garrick, have there been any developments here? I'm seeing things pop in the chat here. Is there anything we need to announce? Are there any NLIs that have been received, or are we good?
No, we're good. I saw that someone commented Chris Henry Jr. signed, and Ohio State hasn't announced anything. So if he has, it's not official yet. So we will wait for that announcement or for Ohio State to tell us that he signed, whichever one comes first.
Like I said, today's show probably won't be as long because most of the day is in front of us. But I will ask this. Mark, you looked at a lot of guys in this class. We did offer evaluations, commitment evaluations of a ton of dudes. Who did you really love? And I don't mean, look, it's Ohio State, and I've said this many times. You commit to Ohio State, you're usually one of the 2 or 3 best players who's ever played at your high school. So we're kind of drilling down on faves here. But Mark, who's a guy that kind of caught your eye that, I thought you made a good point about how Patricia is now, like, I'm not worried about anybody they sign on defense anymore now, because I know Patricia will just, like the Patriots, somehow you would go there and they would figure out what you do best and they do it. Who jumps out to you? It doesn't have to be on defense, but who jumps out at you?
I am going to gravitate towards the Ohio offensive lineman, Sam Greer. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like you say, when it's the Ohio State class, pick your favorite. You're like, really? Do I want chocolate ice cream, or do I want more chocolate ice cream, or do I want chocolate vanilla? It doesn't get any better. It's all the top rung stuff. But like, I'm an O-line guy kind of by heart sometimes. That's where I spend all my time with the O-line room. It's what I coach the most. So I think that's a position where my heart's at. Sam Greer is as long and talented. Yes. Like, I keep joking. Like, if Sam Greer can't play football, I'm going to go take him to festivals and carnivals, and we're just going to sell tickets to see the biggest human on earth. Yeah, I mean, just come stare at how big his legs and hands are, and just, take a picture next to him, because he is truly headed towards the NFL. God gave him a body, and Dan, I know you've said freshman year I saw him play basketball, and he looked
in
like
the state championship game.
Yeah, he looks like a senior as a freshman. He's had some injuries. He's battled back. A likable kid. Got a little nastiness to him. So, but don't forget Maxwell Riley, Landry Breed, all these other offensive linemen. I know Landry came in at the end. They're like, oh, he's an afterthought. No, these guys could be stars. They're all big time players. So I'm kind of in the offensive line. Let's see how these guys turn out for Ohio. And I'm always rooting for these Ohio guys.
Yeah, Sam Greer basically developed. I mean, it was, I don't want to say it was a roller coaster ride, and it's football, so injuries are 100%. They're not a variable. You're going to get a few injuries, but in terms of what he was as a freshman and then how he blossomed,
and not
like,
done.
He could be.
Done. Yeah.
If you could do the movie Blind Side 2, he could be cast in that movie. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, there's only so many guys they've put on this earth that are that big, like they call him the dancing bear or whatever. He's very blessed. And another great thing is he's not going to be asked to play right away. They've built such great depth on the offensive line. I mean, you can make the argument they're all coming back. Their approach to recruiting the offensive line to me has been just brilliant. They've realized that they need to get on the Ohio guys early and often. And that's the one thing consistently over time. Not one thing. It's something consistently over time Ohio has produced is offensive linemen. So I think I felt like when Tyler Bowen took over, the first part of the summer was just him offering dudes and making up for lost time. So we're really happy about that. All right, we are going to hit some video here and then let you people go follow signing day. Mark, we did a third down conversion reel because we did 2 Buckeye in the Skies from the game. It was worthy. There were so many third and fourth down conversions, and Julian saying by the way, Pro Football Focus, whether you agree with them or not, came out with their ratings. Highest rated player in college football, not highest rated quarterback. Julian saying, is that good? Anyway. So yeah, that was awesome. If you haven't seen,
you know what? Before we give Julian the credit, does he get touched when he drops back for pass?
No. Now here's another thing that this pees me off. You guys know what the Joe Moore Award is?
I'm aware.
The Joe Moore Award is given out every year to the best offensive line. I think there are 8 semifinalists right now. That they should be called quarterfinalists, but I digress. Michigan is on there. Ohio State is not. That's a problem. The Joe Moore Award is losing all credibility going forward. If you want to complain to somebody, hit up the Joe Moore Award. How is that even possible? I think Ohio State's given up like 6 sacks this year, and Michigan's given up like 18. And you watch the game. All right, I digress. Mark, go ahead.
Without digressing before I start the video, you just can't say that about Julian and not say that the offensive line, the receivers, and the whole play calling, it's all syncing up for him. I mean, he's doing his part for certain. The best player in college football, he has the best supporting cast helping him, to that rating or to that type of execution.
No question. And like I said, the third down reel is up, so you can go check it out. But here's the second piece. This is the other good stuff that was not taking place on third or fourth down. Mark, take it away.
Yeah, we're going to start with the plays in part 2 that kind of stole everybody's heart at the beginning of this game and made everybody nervous. Like, how did this happen at the beginning of the game where they busted off such a big run? Well, you see Arvell Reese over there lined up off the edge in the nickel corner. Arvell should be standing there at middle linebacker, so you have 2 middle linebackers, but they're taking a chance and they're coming off the edge. If Michigan was going to run to that side, it would have been blown up. They have the perfect play to call to a 6-man box. We have an extremely light box. You're not going to see 5-6-man boxes. There's a power play, counter. It opens up like the Red Sea for Michigan on the first play of the game. And all it was Coach Patricia, putting Arvell Reese out on the edge, and they kind of took a chance there. And, yeah, Michigan hit it square out of the park. Similarly, like, how could Julian throw an interception on this play? So Michigan's coverage here, and I'll kind of go into this, it's really confusing. It looks like cover 3 up here to the top. Down here, this could be a 1 high safety. This could be a man-to-man guy in the face. This could be cover 2. So it's really hard to figure out what Julian is seeing and reading. I think this was a predetermined shot to Jeremiah here. I think they thought they had man-to-man, and I think that they thought they were going to throw a back shoulder. After watching this 35 times, I think he's hoping Jeremiah gets over the top here. But as this corner sinks back behind him, he's sinking back into cover two, which I think he thought he was going to continue up the field to man. This was probably a back shoulder fade guess. And when that corner shows up underneath, the ball's already coming out of his hand. And this is one I wish he could get back. I think they just misread the coverage early in the game, and it was kind of predetermined. We want to get Jeremiah involved early. Go ahead, Dan.
For what it's worth, I saw Ryan Day interviewed about this. He said one of the reasons he wasn't worried is he saw what happened too, and he said he got fooled, but it was a very good coverage. And he even said, like, he was I don't think Day said he was fooled, but I think he could see what happened, and that made him confident going forward that there wouldn't be any hangover. Go ahead, Mark.
And I watched that 10 times because I wanted to make sure I described it accurately. I didn't want to, put something in Julian's head he wasn't seeing. But, boy, that coverage, it could have been two-man. It could have been Bale in the 4. First play of the game, you just don't have a feel for them yet. And I think it was a guess. And from the best player in college football, he's a lot of guess. And I think, there wasn't much worry after that. But we'll move ahead here with the next play. I think it's important anymore. When I do these breakdowns, it's like, where's Arvell Reese? And I'm starting to identify him more and more where he's lined up at linebackers. There's 3 linebackers, 5 DBs in the game. We're almost identifying personnel. Now, that kind of leaves us with a light box there. There's only 6 in the box. You're down in the goal line. So you're kind of inviting Michigan to run it at you into the teeth of this defense. What's really cool about this is you see the 6-man box, but watch what Patricia does before the snap of the ball. Here comes 2 safeties to kind of give you that 8-man box down there, which is more traditional, and then you're bailing someone else back. That's Caleb Downs right there, unblocked, because if he's lined up at 12 yards deep, do you think anybody's assigned to block him? No, but when he runs up there at the snap of the ball and he runs in unblocked and he nukes you for a 1-yard gain or a 0-yard gain, it's pretty genius to have a guy run up like that the last second. Dan, go ahead.
That was the play that Jordan Marshall re-injured his shoulder, by the way.
That was a thump.
Yeah, if you look, he had a clean shot on him. And if you've ever hurt your shoulder or seen someone walk off the field with a stinger or a shoulder injury where it looks like their body is just pulled to the gravity is working on one side, not the other, that ended up being a huge play, not just for the Patricia mastermindedness, but the shot that Downs got on him determined their offense for the rest of the game in some form.
That really affects a running back style when he can't be the hammer anymore and he has to be, more of an elusive runner instead of putting the shoulders down. We saw so much out of Michigan. They're in a cover 4, cover 3 shell. They're in cover 3 here because we're in quads, which is unbalanced, and we have a tackle eligible. What's always fun about this is this guy's ineligible, and there's always someone covering him, that you waste a man in coverage if you don't practice this on film. This play here is you're going to run to this strong side. You're going to take advantage of your quads or the alignment here. This play is meant to be a zone up the middle. I think the fullback here is meant to go straight through the line and go right up to the middle linebacker here, but he can't get through all that trash. There's too much in the way, and he gets caught up there, which leaves this linebacker. You'd like him to go around like that, but that's not how he was coached to do it. Bo Jackson's going to bounce this, and that unblocked linebacker, it's going to be him one-on-one with him in space. Bo Jackson here uses a little stop and go or a little hitch move to kind of stop his feet and then locks out because an unblocked defender who's coming off the receiver block picks him, and then it's down the sidelines. And when it went from a play that was kind of a bust and didn't hit where you wanted it to hit.
Did Carnell hold there?
Yeah, it's just a nice job. And it's funny, you're going to see the Michigan running back in that same situation here in a second. Michigan's here using motion. And again, we're identifying where's Arvell Reese, where's Sonny Styles, Peyton Pierce. You see the secondary guys. And Caleb Downs, we always got to note where he's at. Is he in the box or here he's over the top, which isn't what he does a lot of. He's usually roaming in the middle of the field and playing linebacker. So that's kind of note how they use him in these different ways. It's not going to be like Patricia always gives it away. It's a cover 2 shell. You see Downs in the middle there. You see the linebacker in the middle, but this is where Sonny Styles baptizes the backup fullback here. Right at the top of the drop, there's no one for the quarterback to throw to. Both receivers have their back to him. They're on streak routes. Sonny Styles disturbs it. And then this is just Caden Curry finally coming off his block. And, boy, is he strong. And I worry about the way he lands there in that split, that he didn't rip his groin apart. I think he's like, oh, boy.
He also drew a holding call on that play, which they declined.
Yeah, I mean,
if you take 3rd and 5 over 2nd and 15, you know you're kicking someone's butt. Go ahead.
Very good point. And Sonny Styles there, I mean, talk about putting a shoulder down on somebody. When they replayed that on TV, I'm like, that's going to go down as a classic for this game. Here we are again. You see Arvell Reese is predominantly playing where now, guys? On the outside. Patricia's gone to a single middle linebacker. And what I mean by that is there's been one middle linebacker in the middle a lot. Now, he's using 4 defensive linemen, but, boy, you're using David Ignosin out here as an outside linebacker, which you're kind of cheating the scheme and kind of using him as, well, where you would have your other linebacker, Peyton Pierce or something. So Patricia's trying to get a little more out of these defenses by using different guys in different spots. Caleb Downs, we got to identify him. He's the rover or the guy in the middle of the field. You don't know if he's coming up to the flats or what he's going to do. This play's kind of cool. We've all heard of the zone read here, where the quarterback reads this backside defensive end and he gives the ball usually this way if that defensive end stays there, or he'll keep it. This just reverses that, where the tailback is playing the quarterback's role and the quarterback is the guy who would run over here. So as this play goes, I think the quarterback should have kept it here and followed his lineman up into this hole. But I think when he reads this defensive end, he thinks he can give it here to Jordan Marshall, and it's not exactly the right read. Let me get this going here. So he thinks right now that Jordan Marshall is going to beat this. I think it should have been the run play here. Now, Jordan Marshall's got the same situation that we had with our running back a second ago, but this is a creature coming after him called Arvell Reese. We can't even call him human anymore, where he just has the agility to dance with them, where your stop and go doesn't affect him the way it affects other human beings. The creature just kind of says, okay, you just made it easier for me to tackle you by stopping.
You may see that play on his NFL draft reel. Go ahead.
Dan, if his draft stock couldn't get any higher, that is the exact type of play at 6'5", when you're breaking down on a big-time tailback, okay, that everybody has, given the accolades to. That's pretty special to be that agile in space at that size. Most vanilla coverage you can get out of Michigan, they had a cover 2 or cover 4 shell, I want to say 90% of the day. They went to cover 3 versus trips and a few other things, but very predictable what they did. You're going to run this backside hitch route by the tight end, and this safety is going to come up. And when he comes up, you're going to see it drawn up on the other side. You're going to leave a hole here to run a post. This safety is going to have to decide between covering the outside receiver or the post here. The speed of these receivers puts him in a bind immediately. The coaching to get width and to widen this safety so that when you snap it back to the inside, and from the other view, you can really see how Tate sets that up. It looks like nobody's on the field here. The other safety's worried about the outside streak. This safety bit on the hitch in front of them. I mean, if Ohio State could sit on a chalkboard and draw it up, they couldn't draw it up to look that good. I mean,
I think they stopped. No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think they stopped doing that because it was so easy. They're saving some stuff. I'm not even kidding. Look at that play again. That's a practice play. He's not even close to getting touched in the pocket.
I mean, as I drew it up and described it to you, you're like, well, we hope this guy would bite on this hitch, and he did. And you hope this guy would go to the outside, and he did. It's like, with the amount of speed at receiver, if you're playing defensive back, try to put yourself in that kid's brain for a second and say, how the heck do I get back fast enough to cover these first-round picks? And it just spreads you out. Okay, this was kind of a complex defense by Ohio State. You see Reese, you see Styles, you see the nickel coverage, and with Caleb Downs over the top, this doesn't look like any traditional coverage. It's not cover 3. It's not cover 2. It's kind of like an amoeba. And at the snap of the ball, it'll snap in the form here. And since it's a run play, it doesn't matter. But someone asked me yesterday about the wham block. Well, here's your wham block. You see that guy in yellow? He's getting wham blocked. They let the defensive end come into the backfield. They're going to try to run right up inside of him. And there is a nice seam in here. The problem is this 51 can't get to Sonny Styles. He just can't get off his block and turn fast enough. And then Sonny's just shot out of a gun. He looks like he is Arvell Reese, if not the same thing. If they just put a line between that 0 and made that an 8, it'd be hard to tell those two apart. cover 2 or cover 4 here again. And that's what's so confusing is they try to put one corner, and I talked about this in part 1, in the receiver's face all day, and it didn't give away whether it was man or cover 2 all day. It made Ohio State think, but the plan we used was really tough for Michigan to get a read on. If you look at this defense, 3 guys to the bottom of the field. It's obviously covered up here with a linebacker, 4 on this side, 2 on this side. If you had a run play and you were picking which side, it's obviously to the left and you hit that void. It's amazing that Ohio State had the play called or audible to the play to take advantage of this void, but this was like stealing. You just pin these linebackers inside, and you can see how well that sets up. You can see the kick out block here is about to set up, and 89 doesn't have anybody to block. That's when you know you've +1 the defense where they don't have a body there. So it's just follow up in the hole. And Isaiah West is the beneficiary of this call where he gets to run up and through here untouched and run for a first down. And this is at that point in the game where first downs are like gold. And this is like ripping your heart out when they rip off carries like this. And this is also where the fans who have been tough on the Ohio State offensive line need to rejoice a little bit. And thank you for how this offensive line played in the game. Cover 4 here, and you can see how far back they are now late in the game. We're going to let you have stuff. The nickels in and the 3 linebackers. I don't know what Bryce Underwood was looking at here. He has this slant really quick. Foot's in the ground, ball's back. You got to release it, kid. And if you don't like that, you got to predetermine that you're going to throw this hitch early. So before that receiver comes out of his break, the ball's there. And he doesn't either. He just freezes here. And this is the part of quarterback play where you just don't freeze on stuff like that. Those were dialed up looks. And, Kenyatta Jackson and Curry, of course, come free. But that's all on the quarterback, not taking the looks that were there. 7 DBs. This is quarter coverage. This is where Patricia at the end of the game on 4th and 5. And again here, receiver is wide open. He's just going to run a quick little slant here, and they're going to try to find that hole between those 2 backers. Receiver's not ready. I mean, it's like, this is the game. This is when you got to make these plays, and what a nice way to finish this, go run down the field. And I know Dan likes the Igbinosun celebrations. He has anointed him as the most celebrated player, or the player that celebrates the most.
My problem with him was he was the guy who celebrated the most, and in the background there'd be like a yellow flag in the air. You know what I'm saying? Which should be punishable. You should do some community service for that.
We'll all take that yellow flag after that play to end that game. And
although that one that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
My problems are the ones where he can't take his hands off the guys when he should have the oven mitts on.
Yeah, that was a fun breakdown. And I think next week it's going to be just as fun, win or lose. I mean, playing the highest level teams at the end of the year, it really puts a spotlight on these schemes and how things go either way sometimes, and you just can't predict it.
And not to pile on Michigan, but the fact that before the game, Underwood said in an interview with Charles Woodson that the game comes down to me versus Matt Patricia. That is just a ridiculous statement on so many levels. 1, you just shouldn't say that out loud if you even think that. 2, that's not a good matchup experience-wise. 3, look, if you're going to be a quarterback, the expectations are going to be different for you. You need to carry yourself in a certain way. Is it a double standard? Yes. Okay. But you can't do certain things as the quarterback. That's one of them. You can't say stuff like that. You can't be out there because, by the way, when you hear someone say me versus Matt Patricia and then see that video and see he can't even really throw a slant, he's detached from reality. That's the problem. He's saying things out loud that don't match up with reality. And when that's your quarterback, that's a problem. If it's your receiver or defensive back or defensive end, you can live with it. When it's your quarterback and he was going into the game actually thinking it was him versus Matt Patricia, that is, you should be worried long-term about him in terms of his or the coaching, because that is the most goofy statement. That's one of the goofiest statements I think I've ever heard. All right, we're almost done.
I'll kind of sum that up with him. And this was like a joke we had in our family. If you've seen the Fabulous Gemstones, there's a scene where they're talking to the father, and he says this: "You're not a trigger puller. You can't pull the trigger. You're like on big deals. You're afraid." And sometimes, and I said that to my own quarterback son, you got to be a trigger puller. You got to be a guy that when you put your foot out, you're not afraid to pull the trigger. And that play, that's what came to my mind. His foot's in the ground, his arm's back, the look's there, and he doesn't pull the trigger. And that speaks to something that's going on between your ears where you're not seeing it, you're not feeling it. And when you call out the defensive coordinator, you better be seeing it and feeling it all year before you get into a game where you're going to put things on film that it's obvious you're not seeing it or feeling it.
That part of the show brought me great joy. Garrick, the rest of the day, how do people follow recruiting? Keep in mind, you can always turn to 24/7 Sports. We'll have live coverage of the day from like a national perspective. Shocker, Buckeyes will be all over that. But Garrick, if someone's trying to follow along for the rest of the day, how can they do so? And maybe you want to tell us again when Ryan's talking.
Sure. Well, the last part of your question, Ryan Day and Mark Pantoni are set to address the media at noon, so 12 o'clock Eastern time. So that's when you'll hear the head coach of the Buckeyes talk about his 2026 recruiting class. And in terms of where you can follow along, we have a live article that we're updating called Ohio State Signing Day Headquarters. It's up on Bucknuts. I'm updating it with every signee, every development and update that comes in. And then separately, if you want to stay tuned to Bucknuts, we'll have articles for when Chris Henry Jr. inevitably makes his decision. We'll have articles when Caden Dixon Wyatt stays or goes, and we'll have hopefully a couple articles on Caden Gebhart if he makes a decision that we're expecting in a couple hours. So stay tuned to Bucknuts. But if you just want, you only got 5 minutes, your one-stop shop, click on that headquarters article, and you should get a great rundown of everything you need to know up into that current point.
Yeah, since it's been asked here, am I right that Mater Dei is hosting a 7:30 a.m. West Coast, 10:30 a.m.
Yep,
East Coast signing day?
Yep, 10:30 Eastern time. So we should know about both Chris Henry and Caden Dixon Wyatt in a little over an hour from now.
Very impressed. Mater Dei does not want to upset the academic day with sports, so they get it done before the first whistle or first bell. We appreciate that. Keep it locked in, Nutters. Thank you to Garrick and Mark. Have a good one.